Welcome everybody to the 7th episode of the Unchained Vodcast. Vellic here with Kriss and Brand. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. Soaked from the rain, but pretty good.
Getting a little downpour over there?
The English weather.
It's nice over here. Sunny California weather.
Until you get absolutely no rain and then you're sitting there. Can I have some water, please?
Please, sir, can I have some more?
Scooching this. Sorry, I look a little bit distracted. I just realized I forgot to actually move my mic even after y'all reminded me. Everyone should be able to hear me slightly better now. Alright, well, welcome everybody. I want to thank Brand and Kriss for coming. Kriss almost didn't make it, and thank you everyone in chat for dropping by, and hopefully we'll have a good conversation today talking about places of power, making CU pop, because I love my puns. Places of power were first mentioned in, I'm now loud, here I'll scoot it back a little bit. Places of power were first mentioned in the Depths BSC video, and they were kind of, not really mentioned, but a little bit implied or possibly linked in the RVR map video that they did quite some time ago. And more recently, they made another appearance in one of the Beta 1 planning updates, which we will get to in just a minute. So, first things first, I guess we will talk about the Depths, since it's the one we really have the most concrete information about. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Depths, and why aren't you? But if you aren't, if you haven't seen the BSC Depths video, you can have permission to leave and go watch it right now. But the essentially the Depths is a subterranean zone that the different realms will fight over to take control of. It will have rare crafting mats and things that can be harvested, possibly some like boss style PvE mobs and things that aren't normally in the greater area of the game. And they mentioned that they will have maybe these places of power, and yeah, I totally intend to do that throughout the whole episode. That they're probably not going to call them places of power in the final game, but for now, calling them places of power, which are essentially, in the Depths anyway, they're going to be like towers or some sort of structures or nodes that you can get control of, and maybe spawn some sort of NPC minions that when someone else takes control of the Depths, they'll have to fight through them, and it'll be a huge pain in their rear, and all sorts of things. So, that's what it is. I remember we've talked about the Depths before, and we've talked about this concept before, so we really don't want to beat the dead horse, because we've had episodes on this, but we've never really discussed the places of power themselves, per se.
I do believe they're going to be also in the overworld, in the rest of the map.
Yeah, and we'll get to
that. Because I'm wondering what mechanics they were gonna have with those.
Yeah,
it's gonna be, knowing Mark, it's probably gonna be some kind of realm-wide bonus.
We'll see. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. But I like the depth. I like the idea. I don't know how they're gonna pull that off. We have some kind of ID with Lord of the Rings Online, with when you can control one of the Mordor creatures.
Mm-hmm.
I hope those places of powers are going to be like that you can actually control one of the monsters, because they said you are going to be the pain in the ass of the other faction of the other realm if they take control of the depth after you. You can place traps, but you can be monsters. So I hope that those are going to be kind of like remote controls for the monsters, so that you can play and wreck their plans.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest. One of the coolest aspects of it is being able to play some kind of a cool mob or something. The main thing I was actually wondering about with this that we haven't discussed before is when the other faction is taking over. Say you've already controlled the Depths and you've got these places of power, and you've spawned, your little minions and stuff to mess them up and interfere with them. Do you think it's going to be the enemy coming in and having to fight your PvE minions and the players for the faction? Will they actually be battling in the PvP within the depths? Or will the depths itself be more of a kind of a PvE area where you're not actually killing other players? You're fighting their traps and their minions, but you're not actually fighting them at the same time.
I think it'll be players involved as well. Taking players out kind of turns it into this giant mini game, which something that important I don't think is their intent. They want players to be involved with every aspect of the game.
It might not be the player characters being the players. I think that might be what they mean when they say you can control monsters in the depth. So it might not be the player characters, your own usual character, but actually controlling one of the monsters.
Yeah, I guess the one thing about it that I think is the problem, or problematic, is if you go into the depths, because I think it would be kind of ideal to be able to fight in the depths. I mean, fight within the caves and the caverns, PvP full on in the closed quarters and everything. It'd be really interesting, really compelling. But if you've got the places of power and you can spawn these NPCs, how can anyone ever oust the defenders? They've got NPC guards and players fighting on their side. How can the attackers ever be... Now, they've kind of mentioned like a tower defense mechanic. Tower defense usually implies two sides with towers, but... Well, maybe they can take one tower and they can farm their own creep, to steal a MOBA term. But I don't know. It just seems like if it's players and NPCs against players, the attackers are definitely at a disadvantage here.
Yeah. Well, there's things to counter that. Bonuses, buffs, especially when you're adding in PvE elements like that. Just an example that comes to mind is something related to the amount of PvE mobs that you're killing, these creeps, as you call them. Like a total tally system that over time, the more you kill, you get a bonus after a certain amount that lets you progress further to try to taking those back.
Yeah, and they did mention that even if the defenders will have a bonus for having controlled the depth, the attackers taking control of the depth is not going to be extremely hard as well, because they wanted to change hands. I think they really wanted to change hands, not very often, but at least regularly. So,
or to have the potential to do that.
Yeah. Mark did say that controlling the depth doesn't mean I win. Because first, I think even with the places of powers, controlling them, the depth are still gonna fight you, because controlling the places of power doesn't mean, I think, controlling the whole depth. And it's still a living creature environment that doesn't want you here. You can be both the attacker of the defenders. For them, you're outsiders and they don't want you here. So I think the depth are going to fight without distinction, attackers and defenders. So that's probably also a good equalizing mechanics for that kind of things.
Yeah, I think you hit on something. I think there could be two possibilities there. One, like you said, the places of power, you could set them up or activate them or whatever, and they could spawn these defenders, but then they may only defend that spot. They may also be hostile to you, so they're hostile to everyone, but you put them there, so they're kind of like just a roadblock, and you're like, haha, now they have to go through them, and you retreat further into the depths or whatever. Another possibility I thought of, since they've mentioned, or at least I think it's been kind of implied, that the depths would probably be instanced with Sif. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. I mean, they haven't definitely said it's going to be instanced, but I thought that was kind of the implication. At least it seems likely, since they also, I believe, want the depths to change around in their layout and not necessarily be the exact same all the time. Right. So since this is kind of instance, they could have a part before you're in the depths be like cavernous and everything, so you can actually go into the underground before you're inside the main part of the depths,
itself,
and you could fight there, and that could be where the conquer point is or whatever to actually flip the depths. So you can still have your PvP in there, and then once you're defeated, while you're doing that battle, all your crafters are in the tunnels and stuff going, okay, activate the places of power and build traps and set up cameras so that we can watch them and giggle, and all kinds of other things.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one way to do it. I think, in my experience with other games, flipping territory generally is more involved with than just like 1 point. There's generally a number of points, 3 or 4 more, and those points could all be places of power, and you have to control all of them or the majority of them to do a flip of any kind of mechanic, however that's going to work, you know.
Yeah. Now, one other question I had to consider is if the PvP and everything in the battling does focus in the depths itself does focus more on NPCs than straight up army on army, because that is kind of the purview of the main RVR area.
Right.
And the depths, as big as it may be, is mostly really just it's kind of a side thing. It's not supposed to be the big show.
Yes.
How do they keep it interesting? I mean, how do they keep it from just becoming boring? Like dungeon grinding. Oh, I gotta go kill those mobs again. Gotta go, like me playing Blade and Soul today. I gotta go kill, what was his name? The giant scorpion. I went and killed him like 15 times.
Okay.
Yeah, Pokey. How do they keep it changing up? Keep it interesting?
Well, the fact that the depth themselves, the layout, will most certainly change is one interesting part. The kind of mechanics part is that you are going to have major elements, major materials in there that you're going to need for your realm and for your guild. And hopefully the PvP side, which is, I don't know, I kind of hope it's a PvPvE, where the depth is actually fighting everybody, not just the attackers or the defenders, but everybody. Just playing the, as we'd say in France, the dog in the bowling alley, kind of in the
dog in the bowling alley.
Yeah.
How often does that happen in France?
I don't know how you call it. It's just basically creating chaos. So you don't have an actual organized battle, but more skirmishes all around with the depth attacking everybody. So I think that's part of what is going to make it interesting.
I think it's important that the PvE ties into the PvP.
Yes.
Obviously. And not just through quest, but mostly through objectives, and having variables like the map changing is one variable, having several different key either places of power or locations that you may not always see for each and every map that require you to do specific things to tackle those objectives that you're fighting for, and you include the PvE aspect of it in setting up tackling that objective. But you might not always see it, and from map to map there might be just different objectives entirely to keep it interesting and not so repetitive and boring.
Dulos has a question in the chat that I think is interesting. From what I understand, is that you get actually to control the NPCs after you've been kicked out. It's kind of your retaliation for being kicked out of the depth.
Or some of them, at least.
Yes, to disrupt the realm that now controls the depth, and what they do in there.
But yeah, as I think it was Dolos that also said. Oh no, that was when he was asking the question. But yeah, I think controlling the NPC mobs is definitely something that'll be interesting. It's just, how do they make that interesting for everybody? Because how many mobs can they have players controlling? They might give a lot. I felt like it was implied that it would mostly be like boss mobs. In which case there probably won't be that many defender players actually controlling NPCs. But I still think it could be at least that might make it more engaging from the attacker side, which I think actually may be more important than making it extra interesting for the defenders.
Yes.
Because the attackers are going to go in there. They don't want to feel like they're just grinding mobs. They want to feel like they're going against something interactive. And since the layout of the depths is going to shift around, that should help. Do you think that having these NPCs in there is going to drive off some PvPers?
No.
I don't think so, because since it's not the main game but part of the game, and that there is a goal behind that, it's not just grinding on mobs. I think they're gonna kind of just suck it up and go to get the materials, because it will not. They know already, and I think everybody knows, it will not appeal to everybody. There are some people who won't like the depth. Those will probably have the motivation to go there just for the mats. But as long as everybody has a motivation to go there just reluctantly, it's gonna work.
And I think a PvE objective of any type, whether it's grinding mobs in location X or whatever, is no different than having resource nodes at that location. You're giving the other factions a reason to go there. Some people just like to kill, and now you have a reason to go there to kill people because you know there's going to be people questing at that spot doing this objective. You just got to wait and sit, and they will come.
I'm perhaps a little bit more pessimistic, I guess, because I feel like some people overreact to the smallest things, and I feel like there will be some people that are like, this is supposed to be an RVR game. There shouldn't be any NPCs. And it's like, well, you know they've been saying these were going to be in there since the Kickstarter. This was never mentioned before. I'm leaving. Okay. But aside from that, I think you're right. I think I think because the depths are not, I mean, they're not the overworld RVR game. I don't even think they really should be. I think the depths should be really cool and should be important. But I feel like the overall RVR overland map should be more important, because otherwise you're going to have a real problem. And I think then some of the PvPers may have a problem with the NPCs. Wanted to check chat real quick. No, Duelos, everything does not have to make everyone happy all the time. Some people find one little thing that sticks in their butt, though, and then they get very displeased. I personally do think the depths are something that will be pretty awesome, and I can agree, as I just said, with self. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. I think it is important that the depths be important, but not be the focal point of the combat, because we want the overland, massive battles, and the small skirmishes and everything. Ibsen, you better check your butt. Now, speaking of the overland map, because I know everybody wants to talk about that, because we have nothing concrete to say about it.
Absolutely nothing. It exists somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think we can finally say that it is confirmed that there would be places of power in the overland map, because of one of the recent Beta 1 checklists said that there will be one place of power on the map. That's their objective, is to get one in for Beta 1. So, we know there's going to be one. We have no idea what it's going to do. We have no idea what it's going to look like. So, what types of structures and locations do y'all think are going to be these places of power? And chat, don't hold back. What kind of places do you think will make suitable places of power?
There's different ones I'd like to see. I don't want them to be all the same. Even inside a realm, I'd like them to change also while the realm changes. For the island, the realm owner, the places of power should change location and style. For example, for Vikings, it should be maybe stone circles. For Arthurians, maybe castles, but I'm not too sure, since it wouldn't also, since the castles are supposed to be player built, I can't think of a structure, an actual structure, that could be a good place of power for the Arthurians. For
It's
the
graveyard
TDDs,
or
it would be a,
something.
Ruins.
a tree.
Ruins.
Yeah.
It's that's actually kind of an off-topic point that just made me think of is do you think some of the places of power might be keyed to one realm? Like, say there is this powerful grove in this one tile, maybe closer to their safe zones. There's like a powerful grove there with forests and trees and everything near the TDD safe realm. If they control that zone, it's a place of power. If they don't, it's just a forest.
That could work too. That would be interesting.
There are so many different possibilities that you can think of with various mechanics.
That's good also for a realm power balance.
Yeah,
Also,
help defend against larger realms because you have this defense buff.
Because if you take over the place of power from another realm, you just take away their own bonus, not give you one, which doesn't allows even to prevent the most powerful and populated realm to clearly dominate. If you take away some bonus, they still have a fighting chance. If instead you take away the bonus and give it to the realm that just took the place of power, it gives us an even bigger advantage. And just taking away the bonus from one faction, I think is enough to shift the balance, but not making it too hard to regain it on the other side.
The Arthurians can have, as Duelist said, a Lady of the Lake. We can have a big lake with like a landmass in the middle. That's pretty cool.
Or with just a big hand.
For things that can easily adapt, I think, stone circles of various sorts, ruins, temples. One thing that is an idea I totally stole, I admit, is what do you think about the possibility of not directly player-made pops, but, like, say players build this really big, really expensive keep that lasts for, 100 in-game days, and the enemy actually manages to destroy it, and it then becomes a ruin place of power.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Those kind of things would be cool.
That would be, because it would have a huge significance for the realm.
Yeah. And it would be something historic on across the server. I mean, you go and see that, and just like, oh, that's our thing.
That was our keep.
That was our keep. And it's cool for the enemies too, because every time they see it, they're like, yeah, we burned that.
That's our Bleakers. That's our Talamo.
Yeah, I definitely think places of power will be themed and not themed, depending on their location.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of even wondering if they're going to be a bit more expansive than just a single landmark or location, because on their RVR topic, the BNC video as well, they talked about the different types of maps and their size, and one of them was their larger map size, which mentioned landmarks and places of power, meaning, to me, I took that as a place of power could be an actual territory, a full environment, and not just a single building or a single structure of any sort.
Maybe. I hadn't really considered that as an option. I do think Halfgar is right that Camelot itself will probably be... I don't know if it itself will be like the same sort of place of power, but I'm sure it will be some sort of huge objective place of power type. Place of power type location. And I agree with Doulos as well, or Dolos. I don't know how to pronounce anybody's name. That I would like to see some cool apocalyptic ruins and stuff, like the top half of a really old tower that's just sticking up out of the ground or something. That'd be cool.
Before the break.
A Sphinxer too.
What are your guys' thoughts on the longevity of a place of power as far as existing in the map? Should they despawn after time and be temporary bonuses, or?
That is a good question, because in the video, one of the videos, they did mention that there would, well, in the RVR map video, they didn't call them places of power, but they mentioned that there were locations that might be temporary or charged by veil storms, or
exactly. Or when a realm takes over one of the islands that has a place of power from another realm, maybe the place disappears, and the place of powers might shift and change in different territories, depending on how the RVR meta goes. Like an island that has been controlled, that didn't have a place of power, but had been controlled by the Arthurians for, say, a month, and now it's an important part. It's been shifted and changed by the fact that it's been influenced by the Arthurians for a long time. Maybe a place of power could appear there.
I think what I would most want to see is that each place of power is different. They're not all cookie cutter. They don't work the same way. I would actually like it if they all worked in different ways. Kind of like we have non-mirrored classes, we have non-mirrored pops. Each realm may have, each side may have some of the same ones, but they're not all the same. For instance, like if there were ones closer to the realms, maybe those are permanent. Unless someone comes in and defeats it and claims it or something. And it provides just an island-wide buff to everyone of that faction that controls it. And so they can kind of, help keep defense up or something like that. Maybe some of the other ones have one-time use, and then they have to recharge. Maybe some of them have like a shorter range use. I would like to see something where the different pops all have different kind of, not just different effects, but different durations as well, based on what their effects are.
Absolutely. When we started talking about us doing this topic, one of the first things that came to mind that I felt would be really cool was places of power with scouts, and how scouts gain more responsibility and more things to do other than just PvP through finding places of power and updating the map with them. And I'm really hoping they do become more of a random event kind of thing, that the scouts become that, that necessary to find them and to tell the realm, hey, here's a place of power updated on the map.
That's just because you want to play a scout.
That is. So I'm very invested in that possibility, because I am going to be playing a scout.
That could be pretty cool, though. Actually, like not as a common everyday thing, but maybe that's something that happens, once a month or something. There's like a random place of power spawn that you can find.
We have news. If you look at the chat, Mark just says, if you don't feed it, it turns on you and curses your realm on that island.
Yeah, that was Nanulak said maybe for the pops you can feed it the souls of your energy to keep it around, the souls of your enemies to keep it around, which actually I think would be really cool. That would be awesome. We have to, our fuel's getting low, we have to go kill more people. That would be pretty great. I forgot what my next. Actually, I was gonna bring up the charge thing. You totally brought it up for me. What do you think about benefits? Like, what should the different benefits and effects? What kind of effects do you want to see from pops? And chat, what sort of effects do you want to see from pops?
First,
not
I'd
the
like
cereal.
To limit, for most of them, except the real major ones, I'd love to limit them to the actual island where the pop is, rather than realm-wide, because it gives still challenge to the other places, or other battlefields, even if you own one of the places of powers.
I'm actually fully in agreement. I was just thinking that they should be limited to the location surrounding the place of power, so that there's a benefit while fighting there. And one thing I'm going to make Kriss happy with this is I think some of them should involve very heavily crafting benefits, because crafting is so important in mixing with this game that a lot of them should be for that. Like, if you own this place of power, super rare resource, maybe even enhanced regular resource, last longer or more of it. For those being fed by the crafters also, to keep it active. Maybe with Vox power, sacrificing some of your Vox power to power the place of power and get more benefits for your gathering or for other means of crafting. Yeah. I kind of want to steer away from stat bonuses and
Yeah.
just do more about environmental bonuses, like plus speed. I know speed would be a
Run
stat,
speed.
but
Yes.
you know,
Run speed.
things like that.
I do agree with both of you and Dumas that Dolus. I want to say weird things with your name. That crafting is a good way to do it, because I think it is good if a lot of these have indirect bonuses. Instead of giving you crafting resources, some of them could give crafting resources, but instead of that, they could also boost the material resources that your realm gets. And so instead of giving you extra crafting mats, maybe it gives you more realm renown to be taking control of that and getting your realm bonuses, and then your king turns around and gives you more rewards, but you don't just point blank get, extra iron ore, yay!
Yeah.
I do, however, completely disagree with you, sort of, on the area of effect, because these are places of power. And by that, the reason I say that is because, again, I would like it if they're all very different. So I would like to see different types of effects applicable to what it's doing. For example, I do agree that I think most of them, especially if they have some kind of a stat bonus or maybe like a resurrection bonus or something, then it should be local. And maybe not even that it's around that point. I actually don't like the idea of having them be like super defendable points where they give you stat buffs and if you stay there. Yeah. What I would kind of rather see is maybe a temporary buff until you die. Like it goes, everyone that's around there, within a certain distance, it goes, bah, and you all get, plus whatever. And then once you die, it's gone. But until you die, you've got that buff. Because I think it is important to make sure that the Zerg can't get this permanent realm-wide buff. It's just going to give them too much. But I think there's other possibilities that we can do, like what if there is a location-wide defense buff that you can control, kind of like a relic. You can go to a place of power and you get this relic, and you carry it around, and it doesn't do anything until you plant it, like a big banner or something, and you can carry it to one of the front lines, you plant it, and then it's going to last for like 10 minutes or something until it runs out of charge. But you can't move it again. Once you put it there, that's where it is. Yeah. If they're fighting you there, so if you're in this epic defense, you go, get the relic, and someone hauls it from across the map, brings it to one of your keeps, throws it down, and then it goes, whoa, and everyone gets, like a defense buff or something to help stop the Zerg that's, coming their way.
Yeah. I agree. And I'd like places of powers to scale also. Having lower ones and really powerful one that would be the ones giving the whole realm rather than just an island bonuses, but those would be hard to get, hard to power up, and hard to keep active because they would give such power. But I like a scale in how much power and benefits they give.
Yeah. I do like the idea, though, of them giving not just combat buffs and everything. Because, that's done. Yeah. Every game has, points and everything that give you combat buffs and stuff. And I think it's problematic, too. But we're probably going to have some that do that. Yeah. But I do think it's a good idea to have someone that have other sort of benefits. Like you said, speed buffs or crafting, some sort of crafting
Recharge
gathering
the realms
buffs.
Vox Magus by X%.
Yeah, yes. That would be pretty cool.
Yes.
For some people.
I'm going to make sure that Kel keeps that one active all the time.
Yeah, I definitely want to see these incorporated more as a reason for PvP, less as an effect to be had to help PvP, such as publicly announced events. I think ESO kind of did it with their gates. Whenever the gate was coming down, there'd be some sort of visual as well as textual, hey, this is happening in 10 minutes, whatever. You get the hint that something's happening, you have to go there and fight for it. So having places of power that become more public over time, every couple hours, whatever, that people can fight for to take control of and give themselves a bonus for that duration would be cool.
Yeah. So I guess my last question about PoPs, and we'll see if chat or y'all have any other questions about PoPs that you'd like to consider. They've said that there's going to be at least one place of power in the Beta 1 map. Yeah. What type of place of power do you think they should put in the Beta 1 map?
Good question. A dragon.
It's giant dragon statue. It comes to life and attacks everybody.
I definitely think it's going to be a combat-related one because they're not ready for the crafting stuff. They're not ready for. There's no reason to put just a random thing in. It's going to be very specific combat-related. What I don't know, but I think that's the route they'll take for it.
Since they said that, I would have said a duck, but they said for the beta, they're gonna get kind of rid of all the duck thing. I
know, it makes me sad. Makes me
Yeah,
sad.
I know.
As you can tell by my logo, I rather like ducks, so I like their choice of a mascot. But
I want it to be a speed buff. I'm tired of running.
It's the
especially if they make it really wide, as they said. A speed buff would be really good.
Dolos said he'd like to see something overworld pops inherit, kind of the depths NPC control type thing. Naruan would like summoning as well. A resource mine. Tree of Life for the TDD. For me, I thought of two possibilities that I thought might be useful to them, because that's what I was trying to think of, is what would be useful for them to test, because it's beta. They need to test it. The first thing was just base DPS boost. just to see what sort of effect that has on all the abilities, because that's going to play havoc on all their numbers.
Sure.
To just it gives a 5% boost. Oh no, everything is ruined.
Yeah.
So that might be useful to them. I don't know, to test and see how that works out. The other thing I had was, as mentioned by chat, spawning. And the reason I thought this might be useful is, one, they've done a lot of work with NPCs over Alpha. Lots of bots. So I thought it might be useful to them as well to have a PoP that spawns some sort of mobs to do something, even if maybe it's just patrols that go out or something in a certain scripted way or something, because it might get them. It might help them when later on they're trying to develop the depths and the places of power there with the NPCs.
Yeah.
Maybe to already have something they can play around with. I don't know. I'm obviously not on the development team. Mark Jacobs won't pay me to just sit there and be pretty. I just sit here and look pretty. I'll put on the duck suit and walk around. Mark.
Or not.
I would send them a duck suit. That's what So, welcome Ioshika, who just made it for the end of the cast. So what do you think about PoPs in general? Do you think it's a good idea to have them? Should they be plentiful? Should they be more constrained?
They should be limited. They should be limited because they're depending on how they treat them. If it's like we said, if you take them over, they just disappear for the realm that had the control for them. Mm-hmm. Even if you take over them, any mechanics you put, if they're actually significant bonus, they're going to be places of battlefield as well, because everybody will want to control them or just get rid of them for the opposing realm. So they're going to be places of contention pretty regularly. So I think it's a good thing as long as the buffs are not overpowered and game breaking. I think they're a good thing because they're just one more opportunity to create battles, to create confrontation, and to bring people together to fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're great means for that. I love random events, those kind of things. I definitely want to see a mix of all the types we've talked about, really. Longer lasting, ones that despawn practically immediately, and so some of them would be moderately more noticeable or happening more often. Some might not happen at all, or like once a week. I want to see a mixture of them. I think that'll just spice everything up, give a nice amount of unpredictability about them.
It actually just gave me a completely random idea and inspiration. Speed buff for the caravan routes.
Yeah,
that would be pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Hand out the whips of hastening. Pull the cart faster. All right, well, once again, I guess that's all we have today about the places of power. Hopefully sometime soon. Beta 1 is coming. We will see something a little more concrete. Until then,
I hope so.
thanks everyone. We'll be here in 2 weeks on Saturday at 6:30 p.m.
Yeah.